It's all about wallpaper, guys. How do I figure out how much wallpaper I need? How do I even know if this wallpaper has a pattern repeat? How do I know how to measure my pattern repeat, to incorporate my pattern repeat into figuring out how much wallpaper I need? I want to buy wallpaper in feet, not rolls. So how do I figure out how many feet of wallpaper I need? Don't worry, it's all in this video. I have done a few videos on wallpaper calculations, on teaching you how to find your pattern repeat and identifying them and measuring your pattern repeat and how to incorporate that in your measurements so you can calculate how much wallpaper you need, whether you're buying your wallpaper by the yard or by the square yard or by the roll. It's all here in one place for you. Convenient, eh? Yeah. So let's get it started. In this video, I am doing wallpaper calculation. On the board, we have a diagram which represents a wall. Now the wall is 10 feet high and 12 feet wide. There is a small 2x2 window in the middle. If that's your situation, just pretend there is no window and calculate your wallpaper, right? So let's get started. Let's pretend we are going to buy wallpaper that's 2 feet wide. We'll take this 2 feet and this 12 feet, which is the width of the room, and we will divide the 12 by 2, which is 6. Now we did that because we want to find out how many widths of this 2 feet wallpaper we will need to go across the wall. So if your wallpaper is 3 feet, then you divide by 3. What we'll do next is take this 10 feet and we will multiply that by 6. And that's 60 feet. And that is because we need 6 widths to go across. So it's 6 times 10. However, we need to calculate yards, right? So the next thing we'll do is take this 60 feet and we will divide by 3. The reason we divide by 3 is because there are 3 feet in a yard. Delivery. So 60 divided by 3 is 20. So we will need 20 yards of wallpaper to cover this wall. Now this is a good foundation for you to build off to cover any number of walls you want to cover in a room, if it's in your whole home. Just use this as the base and you're off to the races. In this lesson, we are looking at identifying pattern repeat in your wallpaper and how to measure your pattern repeat so that you include that measurement in your calculation. Because if you're wallpapering a given space and you do not consider your pattern repeat, then you won't be able to match up your patterns. So let's get at it. I have 2 wallpapers here that we'll be looking at the pattern repeat and how to measure them. So just like fabric, wallpaper can either have an all over pattern or it can have a pattern repeat. Now, if you look at this wallpaper, it has very small motifs. So it would look like it doesn't have a pattern repeat, but absolutely it does have a pattern repeat. If you look closely, you can see where the one flower is here and the same flower repeat itself here and here and here and here and so on. Now, a small motif like this, maybe you could get away without matching up the patterns. But if you are a very detail picky person like I am, then maybe you will want to match up your patterns to get a precise job done. So then in that regard, you will have to calculate your pattern repeat. And the rule of thumb is when you're calculating your pattern repeat, you should start from the middle of the one pattern and measure to the middle of the other pattern. However, for myself, I feel more comfortable measuring from the start of the one pattern to the end of the other pattern, because I want to make sure 100% that I have enough wallpaper or I have enough fabric. So I would suggest that you do the same. So you would measure from the top of the one pattern here all the way down to the bottom of the other pattern, which is 5 inches. So your pattern repeat here would be 5 inches. Now let's look at another wallpaper. Let's look at the pattern repeat here. Now your pattern repeat here is more distinct. So you would not get away with this type of wallpaper using it as an all over pattern. You would see the mismatch. So you have to make sure you calculate your pattern repeat. And you can see pattern repeat throughout this paper here. You can see where the one butterfly is right here, and the same butterfly repeats itself down here. Also, over here, you can see where the one flower is with the leaf going up like that, and it repeats itself down here with the leaf going up like that. So that's your pattern repeat. Over here, you have this butterfly, the same butterfly. So the way to know that your pattern is repeating itself is when you see the same motif recurring in another place. Some pattern repeats have a way longer gap than other pattern repeats, but you have to make sure to look for that, because you could just look at this wallpaper and maybe think, no, it doesn't have a pattern repeat, but yes, it does. There is just a huge gap between the two same patterns. Over here is the same thing. So what do we do to find our pattern repeat here? We use our measuring device, whether it's a yardstick like I have here, or a measuring tape, the metal tape, or just a fabric tape. So you measure from the top of the one pattern here to the bottom of the other pattern here, and that would give you 22 inches. Your pattern repeat here is 22 inches. Now let's do the flower and see if we get the same 22 inches. So we put it at the top of the flower here and at the bottom of the flower here, 22 inches. So our pattern repeat here is 22 inches. And again, we will have to take that into account when we do our calculations for our required number of rolls of wallpaper that we need to do a given space. I think there is a small detail that some people may need a help with, and that detail is called pattern repeat. In this moment, we are going to go ahead and do another calculation, taking in consideration pattern repeat. Now I'm using the same wall. However, there's a minute change to the wall. This wall has a ceiling height that is 10 feet 6 inches and a width that's 12 feet with a little window 2 by 2. Still, let's pretend we're using a wallpaper that is 2 feet wide. The first thing we need to do is take our width and divide that by 2 feet. And that is 6. Now we do that because we need to find how many widths of this 2 feet wallpaper we will need to go across the wall. Now the next thing we'll do is check out what our pattern repeat is. I'll link the video for you so you can go look for your pattern repeat. However, I am going to use a pattern repeat that is 6 inches. What we'll do with that pattern repeat is 6 inches. We will take this 6 inches pattern repeat, go ahead and add it to 10 feet 6 inches, which is the height of the wall. So that's plus 6 inches, and here we have 11 feet 0 inches. Now what we'll do next is take our 11 feet and multiply that by 6. That's 66 feet. Now in order to find out how many yards of wallpaper we need, we go ahead and take our 66 feet and divide that by 3. And we divide 66 by 3 because there are 3 feet in a yard. And remember, we're buying the wallpaper by the yard, right? So that's 3 into 6, 2, and 3 into 6, 2. So we need 22 yards of wallpaper, including our pattern repeat, and that will cover the entire wall. Now suppose you are buying wallpaper in feet, then you don't have to divide by 3. We already have our feet here, so you would need 66 feet of wallpaper in order to cover the entire wall. Now you can use this format here and do your calculation for all the walls in your home. Okay guys, so I am back with my wall and I'm going to show you another variation for calculations for your wallpaper. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm thinking that the ones that I did previously are squared, right? We didn't have any inches on our measurements. And just suppose you have an inch on your measurement that you want to know how to deal with. I'll show you just how to deal with it. So let's turn our attention to my trusty whiteboard. Our wall is 10 feet 8 inches high. The width is 12 feet 8 inches. Our wallpaper width is 2 feet, and our pattern repeat, I will link a video so you can check out what pattern repeat is and how to measure your pattern repeat on your wallpaper. But yeah, our pattern repeat is 14 inches. Now our wall has a little window on it which is 2 feet by 2 feet. However, let's just kind of ignore it like it doesn't exist, because this should not affect how much wallpaper you buy. It's just a small window, right? We need to find out how many widths of this 2 feet wallpaper we will need to go across the wall. So we'll take the width of the wall, that is 12 feet 8 inches, and we will divide by 2 feet. Now, because we have the inches here, we'll have to convert everything to inches, and then we'll also have to convert our 2 feet to inches. So let's do that. And that's 12 times 12 is 144 plus 8. That's 152 inches. Our 2 feet here will be 24 inches. So we will divide 152 by 24 inches. That's 152 divided by 24 equals 6.33. So we have 6.33 widths of wallpaper. However, we have to buy a full width. Therefore, we will have to round off to 7 widths of wallpaper, because if we round off to 6, then our wall will stop, that the wallpaper will not get to the end of our wall. It will leave an empty spot on the wall, right? So we have to round off to 7. So we need 7 widths of wallpaper to go across the wall. Now, the next thing we will do is take our 10 feet 8 inches, and we have to convert it into inches right across the board. So let's go ahead and convert. 10 times 12 is 120 plus 8 is 128 inches. The next thing we need to do is to add our pattern repeat to the 128, because we will need 14 inches on each width to go across the wall. So it's 128 plus 14, 142 inches. Now we will take this 142 inches and we will multiply that by the 7 widths that we have over here. So that's 142 times 7. 2 7s are 14, 4 7s are 28, and the 1 29. 7 1s are 7, and 2 9. So we will need 994 inches of wallpaper. To convert that back to feet, we will then go ahead and divide this by 12. So that's 994 divided by 12 equals 83.36 feet of wallpaper. Then, if you are buying the wallpaper by the feet, then that's it. You don't have to calculate anymore. However, if you're buying it by the yard, then you have to take this 83.36 and divide that by 3, because there are 3 feet in a yard. So that's divided by 3 equals 27.78. So that's 27.78 27.87, so we'll say 27.79 yards of wallpaper. And as usual, I round up, not down. So with your pattern repeat, you will need 28 yards of wallpaper to cover this wall. Now you can go ahead and use this as a base and calculate your wallpaper with your pattern repeat for any number of walls you need to cover with wallpaper in your home. We will look at how to calculate how much wallpaper you will need for a room if you want to wallpaper your room. Now, generally, wallpaper come in 15 feet lengths. So there would be 15 feet of wallpaper in this roll. And the widths sometimes vary. 20.5, 24 inches, 27 inches, depending on where they are made. For the purpose of this lesson, we will use a wallpaper that has a width of 20.5 inches. On my whiteboard here, these boxes represent a room that's 5 by 7 by 8. So 5 feet on 2 walls, 7 feet on 2 walls, and 8 feet high. To calculate how much wallpaper we will need, we will look at how many widths of this 20.5 inches wallpaper we need for each wall. However, because the walls are in feet, we will have to take our 20.5 inches and convert that to feet. So we'll divide 20.5 by 12 inches. And we do that because there are 12 inches in a foot. And we get 1.71 feet. So now we know that this wallpaper, the width in feet is 1.71. So the next thing we do is look at how many widths of wallpaper we need for a wall that's 5 feet wide. Therefore, we take the 5 and we divide the 5 by 1.71 feet, because the width of the wallpaper is 1.71. So we want to see how many widths we need to go across the wall. So when we divide 5 by 1.71, we get 2.93. So we need 2.93 widths of wallpaper to go across a 5-foot wall. We will round up the 2.93 to 3. So we need 3 strips to go across the one wall. However, we have 2 walls that are 5 feet wide. So we will multiply the 3 and we'll get 6 strips. So we will need 6 strips or width. So if you hear me say strips, it's the same as widths, basically from here to here. So now we need to figure out how many widths we need to go across a 7-foot wall. So we take 7 and we divide by 1.71 feet. And again, that is because the width of the wallpaper is 1.71 feet. So 7 divided by 1.71 equals 4.10. So 7 divided by 1.71 is 4.10. We'll go ahead and we'll just round down the 4.10 to 4. So we need 4 strips, strips, 4 strips or widths of wallpaper to go across this 7 feet wall. However, we have 2 walls that are 7 feet. So we'll take the 4 and we'll multiply by 2 and we get 8 strips. Therefore, we need 6 strips for the 5 feet walls and 8 strips for the 7 feet wall. So for the entire room, we need 6 plus 8 equal 14 strips. We need 14 strips of wallpaper to go around the entire room. So what about the height? What do we do next? This is what we do next. We take the 14 strips and we multiply that by 8 feet because the room is 8 feet high. So 14 multiplied by 8 equals 112. So we need 112 feet of wallpaper. But wallpaper is sold in rolls. So what do we do next? We take the 112 feet here and we divide by 15 because there are 15 feet of wallpaper in one roll. So 112 divided by 15 equals 7.47 rolls. So we will need 7.47 rolls of wallpaper. So we will need 7.47 rolls of this. But we can't buy 0.47 rolls of wallpaper. So we will have to round up and buy 8 rolls of wallpaper. So it will take 8 rolls of wallpaper to cover this room. What I want to do in this lesson today is teach you an alternate way to calculate wallpaper for your walls. In the previous lesson, we did the strip method. So what we did was calculate how many strips we would need to cover our room. In this method, I will be doing the square footage. Okay, so we'll find out the square footage of all the walls. On my whiteboard here, I have 4 little boxes that represent a room. The room is 8 feet high and 10 feet wide. So each wall is 8 feet high and 10 feet wide. It's a square space. For ease of calculation, I'll use a square space. And one wall has a doorway that is 7 feet high and 32 inches wide. An outside wall has a window that's 48 inches wide and 48 inches high. Now the wallpaper that we will be using has 55 square feet of wallpaper in the roll. The first thing we want to do is take our wall measurement and do the square footage. So if one wall is 8 feet high and 10 feet wide, the square footage of this wall would be 8 multiplied by 10. 10 eighths are 80. So the one wall is 80 square feet. All the walls are the same measurement, therefore we will multiply 80 square feet by 4 because we have 4 walls. So that's 80 multiplied by 4 equals 400, and 4 eighths are 32. So the room is 320 square feet. So we need to cover 320 square feet of wall. However, in the first wall, we have a doorway that's 7 feet high by 32 inches wide. So we need to find out the square footage of this space on this wall. So what we'll do is multiply the height of the doorway by the width of the doorway. However, the width is 32 inches and the height is 7 feet. What we'll have to do in order to multiply the square footage is convert the feet to inches and then multiply by 32 inches. Therefore, we will have 7 multiplied by 12 equals 2 7s are 14 and 7 1s are 7 plus 2, 84. And we multiply by 12 because they're 12 inches in a foot. Now we have this 84 inches. We'll go ahead and multiply this by 32 inches. So that's 84 multiplied by 32. 2 4s are 8. 2 8s are 16. Now we're over to the tens, so we'll do 3 4s are 12. Put the 2 under here and carry the 1 over here because that's the tens. And 3 8s are 24 plus 1, 25. So that's 8, 8, 6, 2. That's 2,688 square inches. Now that we have the square inches for the space here, we will have to go ahead and convert it back to square feet because we're calculating with square feet here. So that would be 2,688 divided by 144. And we divide by 144 because in order to get our square feet, we multiply 12 by 12. So 12 12s are 144. 2,688 divided by 144 equals 18.67 square feet. So that's 18.67 square feet. What we do next is subtract 18.67 square feet from the total number of square feet that we have for the space. So that's 320 square feet and minus 18.67 square feet, and that's for the doorway. So we have 301.33 square feet left. However, we have a window that's 48 inches by 48 inches. So we will also have to find the square footage for that window and subtract that from the 301.33. 48 times 48 equals 2,304 square inches. But then we have to convert that to square feet. And therefore, we will divide this 2,304 by 144. That will be 16 square feet. So the window is 16 square feet. Take the 16 square feet and we subtract that from the 301, and we get 285.33 square feet. Now, this is the total square footage that we need to cover. 285.33 square feet. The last thing we do is take the square footage of our wallpaper roll and we will divide the 285 by 55 square feet. That equals 5.19. Therefore, you will need 5.19 rolls of this wallpaper to cover your space, the walls in your space. That's 8 feet high by 10 feet wide. However, we generally buy wallpaper in full rolls. Therefore, we will have to round up to 6 rolls of wallpaper. So we will need 6 rolls of wallpaper to cover this space. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope it was useful to you. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, like, share, and of course, I'm going to ask you to subscribe and remember to turn on that bell notification icon so you will always be notified of new uploads. Sending you lots of love and appreciation. I will see you in the next one. You take care now.